Vineyard has the latest.
The key here is how long can the regime hold out, because they know they are defenseless. The Israelis have been very deliberate. They've been taking down all the leadership of the military. They took down all of the senior scientists, nuclear scientists. They've been going step by step, city by city, working on taking down not only the military infrastructure, but putting pressure on the Iranian economy by taking off domestic gasoline production, oil, petroleum, refinery capabilities. And so there's tightening the screws on not only the regime, but on the Iranian people.
There's an investigation into the arrest of New York City mayoral candidate and comptroller Brad Lander at immigration court yesterday. Homeland Security officials say Lander assaulted an officer. Lander denies that. No formal charges were brought. Now the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York says it's investigating the matter. A Milwaukee teacher's aide self-deports back to El Salvador. Yesenia Ruano lived in the U.S. for 14 years after seeking asylum for human trafficking before she boarded her flight at Mitchell International Airport Tuesday. Ruano, through a translator, asked for changes in the immigration system.
Our elected officials, if they really care about the well-being of the United States, need to make concrete steps to fix our immigration system and stop treating it like political soccer.
Ruano returned to Central America with her 2 U.S.-born daughters. 14 Milwaukee public schools are ready for lead dust cleaning. MPS Facilities Director Mike Terza assured the district board at a special meeting last night the current staff will be ready to maintain the schools after lead remediation finishes.
By September 2025, we're going to have 100% of all of our custodials and facility staff trained on lead stuff cleaning protocols. We already have the standard operating procedures in place, and we'll continue to do all the training for these staff members over the course of the summer.
Terza says the cleaning for each school takes approximately 42 days. Financial challenges continue for Milwaukee Public Schools. Superintendent Dr. Brenda Caselius tells Wisconsin's Morning News.
We do have a large structural deficit that we need to fix for next year, $100 million. So we are looking at every single position here at central office and across the district to find greater efficiencies, tighten our belt a little bit so we can make sure that every dollar is used in the classroom and for our kiddos.
Dr. Caselius also confirmed the district has submitted all of its missing financial data to the Department of Public Instruction, with the full audits in the final review. Wauwatosa's Firefly Grove turning into a hot spot thanks to its 25-foot troll, Mama Rose. With no official parking lot, crowds are swarming nearby streets. Neighbors say it's gone from magical to messy. Officials are carving up a new solution for the issues.
What we'd like to do is for 90 days, though, get rid of those paper signs that we've got in the ground, put up the no parking anytime from 116th to 113th Street, just on the north side, and we will watch and observe the traffic.
Officials will monitor traffic and hope parking demands decrease over time. Federal health officials may soon drop their recommended limits for drinking alcohol.
The current U.S. dietary guidelines say women should have no more than 1 drink a day and men should have no more than 2. The new guidelines will likely not recommend any specific number, but simply encourage Americans to drink in moderation. It would be a big change months after former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy called for warning labels on alcoholic drinks about the possible cancer risks. Oncologist Dr. Dale Shepard.
More people die every year of preventable alcohol-related cancers than drunken driving.
Michael Wallace, CBS News.
A cut to interest rates is not expected to be announced by the Federal Reserve today. Rates are still hovering between 4.25% and 4.5%. President Trump has been pressuring Fed Chair Jerome Powell to cut rates. Time for more news now about your money. The WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. The Dow is up 255 points. The Nasdaq up 123. S&P 500 is up 31. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Sports, traffic, and weather are next. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 10:04.
Here at Rich Lawns, we offer both comfort service and expert service.
Our comfort service comes with movie theater popcorn, hot gourmet coffee, upfront pricing, on-time scheduling, plus anything else we can do to keep you comfortable.
Put that on top of honest service from the most friendliest, hard-working people you'll ever meet inside a tire and service center, and well, we'd like to believe we're on the right track to meeting your expectations.
But when your check engine light, tire light, or any other light screams, "Service me," well, that means you're due for our other type of service.
Our expert service. Tires, brakes, belts, mufflers, transmissions, and even engine repair.
Come on into Richlands and put our expert service to the test.
And while you're relaxing, enjoy our comfort services too. I'm Brett Matchke with Richlands, your
Due for service.
Since 1964, we've changed your tires and so much more. Richlands Tire and Service, such a refreshing change. Richlands.
With over 57 years of experience, family-owned Yutka Fence installs high-quality fencing with residential options including vinyl, wood, aluminum, chain link, and ornamental fences. Committed to craftsmanship and customer service, Yutka Fence doesn't just build fences, they build relationships based on care, trust, precision, and protecting what matters most. Mention you're a WTMJ fan for 10% off your project. Schedule your free estimate today at yutkafence.com or call 262-859-3226.
Historic Fox & Hound Supper Club gift cards make perfect year-round birthday, anniversary, and thank you gifts. With the buy one dinner, get one free offer, it's like getting a free gift card. Order online at foxandhoundsrestaurant.com and enjoy your free dinner.
Alleviate your pain, rejuvenate your life.
Rejuvenex.com.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Desk. Brewers dropped their series opener. Milwaukee lost 5-3 to the Cubs on the road. Teams continue their series tonight. Panthers celebrating another Stanley Cup trophy. The team took down the Oilers 5-1 in Game 6 from Sunrise. NBA Finals set to continue tomorrow. Indiana Pacers will play host to the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 6 in Indianapolis. A win would mean Oklahoma City's won its first NBA title in team history. A win by the Pacers would force a Game 7 in Oklahoma on Sunday. Taking a look at the roads now with your WTMJ Time Saver traffic. We did have a crash on the exit to Highland Avenue from I-43 South. It looks like that has been cleared. Highway 175 South, almost a mile beyond 94 East, right shoulder there blocked due to a disabled vehicle, and also I-41 about a mile beyond the ramp from Holy Hill Road. We also have a disabled vehicle that is blocking the right shoulder. Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Cloudy, rainy, stormy today, high 71. A few showers tonight, mostly cloudy with a low 62. Partly cloudy tomorrow, slight chance of a morning shower or an afternoon storm with a high of 81. A slight chance of afternoon and evening storms on Friday. Partly cloudy most of the day with a high of 83. Then sunny on Saturday. It'll be hot, humid, breezy, high of 90. We're looking at a heat index near 100. And Sunday, sunny skies, hot, humid conditions, breezy with a high of 93. And again, a heat index near 100 on Sunday. 72 in Madison, 73 in Green Bay, 67 in Milwaukee. I'm Connie Weber. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 10:07.
Broadcasting live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue. It's time for Point Taken. Here are your hosts, Steve Scafidi and Kristin Brey.
Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. And in honor of Steve, happy hump day, since he loves to start the show on Wednesday with that. We may be hearing from Steve later on in the show. He might be stepping out of a noisy pub in Scotland to wish yours truly a very happy birthday. So we have a very packed show today and lots of breaking news. I'm so excited. A birthday treat for myself is having former U.S. Attorney James Santel here, as well as retired Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Mary Queen Mensch here for the whole hour. And we have lots to talk about because
it's a lot, Kristin, right?
Literally, as we're walking into the studio, we are trying to decipher not one, not two, not three, not four, but five U.S. Supreme Court decisions that came out this morning. So
you've got an expanded 4-hour program this morning,
yes,
isn't that
exactly,
right? That's how Judge Mary and I understand.
You guys are here all day.
Right?
I'm here because it's your birthday. That's the reason
well,
I'm
thank
here.
you for the treats, too. I got a chocolate croissant and a donut waiting for me. So the sugar rush will have to come after the show. But let's start. Which case do you think is the most important one to start with today?
Let's perhaps talk about the one that comes from the federal Supreme Court. This is Scrimeti. Okay. This is the big ticket item. Was argued back in December of last year. And remember, back in December of last year, who was the president? It happened to be a fellow named Joe Biden. So at that time, the administration, the Department of Justice, took the position that the states, and in particular Tennessee, when it enacted legislation that prohibited the providing of health care for youths, transgender youth in the course of their health care, you could not provide, for example, puberty-blocking drugs, other things like that. Basically prohibiting health care to minors, again, in the process of their transgender health care. That's what the legislation said. Argument at the time on behalf of the administration saying that that's unconstitutional. Equal protection under the 14th Amendment was the basic premise for it. Obviously, the administration changes and the position changes, but today what we get, and this is the big news, starting off your wonderful broadcast, Kristin, is Supreme Court by a vote of 6-3, right down what we traditionally view as political partisan lines, finds that indeed, when you examine this kind of legislation, you do not subject it to what's called strict scrutiny, this very high level. Instead, you look at rational basis, and Chief Judge John Roberts, applying that lower test, says that this passes muster. The states can, in fact, impose these kinds of restrictions on the health care being provided to transgender youth, minors under the age of 18. It's a huge case, not only for the LGBT community, but also, as you can well imagine, for these kinds of cases involving the level of scrutiny that will be attached to this kind of analysis. And again, a whole lot more coming up down the road on that.
I would agree, Jim. You're spot on in terms of the analysis, but I think the fallout, which is what everybody, when a court comes out with a decision, whether it's a circuit court judge at the state level or at the Supreme Court of the United States, what's the fallout? The fallout is it's going to allow or basically open the door for every other state.
If they want, if they were to be able to pass this.
If they wanted to carve out or craft a law along the lines of the Tennessee one, that basically they've got guide rails now from the decision of the Supreme Court. One of the things that I noticed about it is they, in a really tortured way, they did not go the way of a constitutional assessment of it in the sense of what's a protected class. Sex, we all know, right, Jim, that sex and gender are protected classes,
right.
As are your race, your
other
your gender.
immutable characteristics.
All
right?
those kinds of things are protected rights under the United States Constitution, and they kind of sidestepped that and really treated it as a sort of a health care. And part of their decision really concentrates on the fact that this gender-affirming law that or restriction that the Tennessee law has put in place allows or at least carves out some exceptions and says that across the board, whether it's trans or non-trans children can have access to health care based on whether it's a mental health issue that they need to be treated for, or whether there's a genital defect or some physical issue, they can still get health care. And I think because there were those two carve-outs, my sense was the Supreme Court decided to dance around the constitutional issue of, this is a protected class. They didn't want to go that route. They didn't want to use the Bostock decision, the earlier one, where they did talk about a gender protection because of a federal statute that they found to be unconstitutional. But they didn't apply that in this case, and they really danced around it and treated it as a medical case. And what the fallout of that is that now other states are free to fashion laws that are along those same lines.
So if another state passed a similar law, but there weren't those carve-outs, is there a chance that a similar case could make it where the Supreme Court would have to look at it as a protected class? Or do you think this is settled?
This is going to be settled, I think, for a while. You've got 118 pages of things to consume here. America does, including 3 dissenting opinions that are vociferous. But you've got a lot of standards, as Judge Mary just said, to be bandied about by the lower courts for a while. Obviously, if you've got slight variations in the legislation, sure, it could make its way up. And lawyers would argue once again, this is different from Scrimeti, justices. This is something new, as you're suggesting, Kristin. It'll be a while before that kind of thing percolates up again. And again, you've got even those who are concurring today among the 6, you've got concurring opinions, dissenting opinions. You've got all kinds of things.
Lots of writing.
Lots of things for us. Everybody wanted to be heard on this important issue, and it is. I do not mean to make light of it at all. It is a significant case. When the term started back in October, people looked at this and said, this is the number one most important case for civil rights, human rights. It may have been overtaken by things like, birthright citizenship, other things out there, but certainly it remains among the major cases of this term now coming to a conclusion.
And, one of the things, if there's a silver lining here, I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, Jim. This was an opportunity where the court could have gone in a very, like they did with the abortion decision, where they didn't have to really look at whether or not the Constitution gives you a right to privacy or under the abortion case. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And often courts will hold back because they don't want or they don't think that particular case is the case to decide whether in the Mississippi abortion case, all they had to do is say it passes constitutional muster, let it go. They didn't have to go that extra step, except Alito wanted them to, which is let's take on whether or not the Constitution provides for the right to privacy for women. And they went through that door and crushed 50 years of prior precedent.
We have to get to break, but that's my question, because we're basically at the 10-year anniversary of Obergefell, right? I remember I was at the 2015 Pride Parade when that came down in San Francisco. It was a party, let me say. But I wanted to ask about that because that ruling was across the country, and how was that decided versus this just giving states the right to make their own laws. So let's take a break quickly. This is Point Taken. Stay with us.
All different types of injury lawyers advertise. Cartoon lawyers, bobblehead lawyers, and folks chasing ambulances with text messages. Our clients don't want or need such lawyers. Our clients know, like, and trust that Pasternak and Zergabel will help in their time of need. I'm Jeff Zergabel of Pasternak and Zergabel. Frank Pasternak and I are excellent personal injury lawyers in our community. If you need help after an injury, go to Pasternak and Zergabel at injurywisconsin.com. That's injurywisconsin.com.
Get the help you need Saturday morning with How To Radio. At 7, it's the WTMJ Fix-It Show with David Nason, featuring this week's guests, Gadish Foundation and CertaPro Painters. At 9, plan your dream vacation with the Fox World Travel Show. Yet at 10, get financial guidance during Money Talk. Contact Annex Wealth Management for an unbiased review of your investments at annexwealth.com. How To Radio, Saturday mornings on WTMJ.
WTMJ's John Mercure here. Will interest rates go up or down? We'll know much more June 18th when the Fed announces its next rate decision. Do you wonder how the announcement will impact your decisions, maybe your portfolio? Join Annex Wealth Management's chief economist, Dr. Brian Jacobson, for Instant Insight. 2 p.m., June 18th, Instant Insight is when Annex kind of goes live after important announcements like the Fed announcement to help explain what it means for you and for your money. It's free. Register now at WTMJ.com or events at annexwealth.com, June 18th, 2 p.m.
When it rains, it pours. But sometimes it hails. Or worse.
That tornado warning again is for Fond du Lac and Dodge County. We also have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect right now.
Keep us within reach for Fleet Farm Storm Team alerts.
Even if a tornado does not touch down, we know that there are powerful straight line winds.
On 620 WTMJ and WTMJ.com.
Welcome back to Point Taken. It is Hump Day Wednesday, SCOTUS Wednesday. June Madness for legal nerds.
It's Birthday Wednesday.
It is Birthday Wednesday, but our guest today is Jim Santel and Mary Kuhn-Mensch. Always love getting to talk to you guys about all the things I don't understand because I didn't go to law school. So just to wrap up the first SCOTUS case that came out, the SCOTUS ruling that came out this morning as far as sending it, if I'm saying this right, sending it back to the states to be able to, for them to decide if they can and will ban gender-affirming care for trans youth. Right. So that isn't saying we are banning this across the nation for every state. It is sending it back to the states. And my question was, in the reverse of that, being that it's 10 years since Obergefell came down, saying gay marriage is legal and that every state can't ban it. Just trying to understand the how the Supreme Court looks at these cases that when it gets sent back to the states versus this is a new federal law that you have to abide by.
All right, slightly different analysis, but you're right. They're all connected and they're very close. Maybe the kinds of things that only lawyers and judges love. On Obergefell basically saying you have a privacy right under the Constitution. Every American does, and therefore that right to same-sex marriage applies across the board. Here you've got legislation by a particular state or a series of states deciding that with respect to their particular state, we're going to restrict health care to transgender youth. And the question and the commission is, if you're going to pass that at a state level, what you need to identify is rational basis. You've got to find some connection between the legislation you're passing, the banning of this health care, and some purpose that you intend to promote in the public interest. That's a rational basis test. It is somewhat different from the constitutional dimension, although they're all tied up together.
Got it.
Yeah, you have to be in a protected class. In a way, as I said, the silver lining is that there was an opportunity. I'm sure that the folks in Tennessee who crafted this legislation saw it as, like Mississippi did for the abortion issue, they saw it as an issue on transgender. Are they a protected class? And would have liked to have thought that the Supreme Court would talk about that in terms of constitutional protections, the higher standard that applies to classes that are protected under our Constitution. They opted not to do that, which I believe was really a good idea. This probably wasn't the right facts, the right case to do it. They wanted to treat it as a health care issue, not a constitutional, are we going to make a decision about this law is upheld because transgenders don't have the same rights as everybody else under the Constitution? They stayed as far away from that in very tortured reasoning. As Jim pointed out, there was an opportunity to talk about the constitutional protections. They opted not to go there, not to address that, because they clearly didn't think this was the right case or the right time to address transgender issues on a higher level of constitutional protection or not. And for that reason, this is it's not a great decision, but at least it didn't do additional harm that it had the potential to do, in my view. I don't know how you think about that, Jim.
And one final observation consistent with that. Commend, of course, the reading, 118 pages, but already I can see in Justice Sonia Sotomayor's dissent, which the others agree with, she identifies also some problems with, again, equal protection issue under this particular kind of legislation, noting that if you're a transgender male, you'll be treated differently than if you're a transgender female. Again, all youth is specific in her dissent. It is worth reading to appreciate the consequences. It's a response directly to your question about how legislation is crafted and the need to do it in a way that is specific and particular. And again, the Supreme Court saying you can do this kind of thing generally. You got to have some general public interest in doing so. That's rational basis.
All right, I'm looking at the clock. So let's take another break, and then we'll run through the other 4 decisions that came out this morning from the U.S. Supreme Court. Our guest today, our retired Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Mary Kuhn-Mensch and former U.S. Attorney James Santel. Stay with us on Point Taken.
Dr. Aaron Holtebeck and his team at Holtebeck Eye Center make vision care a top priority. They are your premium provider for eye care and corrective eye surgeries. Dr. Holtebeck has been helping local patients with their eye care needs for over 20 years. Dr. Nausheen Abbas joined the Holtebeck Eye Center team last September, and her practice philosophy is to provide patient-centered medicine by giving all options. Located in Brookfield near the corner of Calhoun and Capitol. Learn more about their services at holtebeck.com.
UW-Madison is one of the country's leading hubs for supporting life-changing research and building a skilled workforce. An investment in UW-Madison helps make a healthier Wisconsin, build strong businesses, and win the war for workforce talent, not just at Madison, but across our entire state. Visit uwalumni.com/UW5 to tell your legislators to support UW-Madison in the Wisconsin state budget. That's uwalumni.com/UW5. Paid for by the Wisconsin Alumni Association.
Hey, John Mercure here. Kohlder's is kicking off summer with a 3-day flash sale. That means 3 days of huge savings on furniture, appliances, and mattresses. You don't want to miss out on this exclusive limited-time sale at Kohlder's. From June 17th to June 19th, stack your discounts store-wide. Save 60% on furniture and mattresses, plus take an extra 10% off. That's 60 off plus 10 off on sofas, sectionals, dining sets, outdoor furniture, mattresses, and more. Don't forget about appliances. Save an extra 5% on appliances. Kohlder's guarantees the best price in kitchen and laundry appliances from all your favorite brands like KitchenAid, Samsung, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, and more. I know I've shopped at Kohl's just recently. Don't miss out on Kohl's 3-day flash sale, only from June 17th to the 19th. Stop by one of their showrooms in West Dallas, Oak Creek, Delafield, or Grafton. They've got the best showrooms and the best sales staff. Or shop online at Kohl's.com.
Step up to quality furniture. Get more for your money at Kohl's.
Here's to time out on the water in Wisconsin. To living your best life while enjoying the lake life.
Ready?
And getting up on a wakeboard the very first try. Or not. Here's to wearing only swimsuits and wishing this perfect day would never end. Here's to those who Wisconsin. Start your summer getaway at travelwisconsin.com.
Brew Crew Tuesdays are back on June 24th.
Uh-oh. Churio sends it deep to left, and there she goes.
Catch the Brewers on local TV as they take on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And Yelich launches one deep right center field. Forget about it. Oh, my goodness. Third down.
This edition of Brew Crew Tuesdays is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Tune in June 24th at 6:40 on Fox 6 in Milwaukee, or check your local listings to watch the game.
All right, our guests today, Jim Santel and Mary Clement, talking all things law, legal cases, interpretations. So we had 4 other decisions come out this morning, maybe not. The headline is obviously the decision on upholding this Tennessee ban on transgender care for minors. What were some of the other ones that came down this morning, Jim? There we go.
We've got a case involving prisoner rights. It's called a Purtue. We've got 2 cases involving the Environmental Protection Agency, both of them fairly wonky about where these cases can be brought. Interestingly, again, we've got some interesting combinations of justices. In both of those cases involving the EPA, who is writing them? Clarence Thomas on behalf of majority. So worth taking a look at those. And then also there's this major case involving the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, also finding in favor of the government here that basically decisions made about where nuclear waste is dumped, those are things that can be discretionary and judgments made by the NRC. Texas and the other plaintiffs in there, not parties to the NRC decision, and therefore not entitled to pursue their case. Sort of a standing decision, and for that reason, granting the NRC, at least for now, ability to go forward and do what it wants. So a combination of things, and interesting.
Where do they
morning.
Want to dump nuclear waste?
Yeah, it has to do with some legislation that designates particular areas for the dumping of nuclear waste. And the question is, does the NRC have the capacity to find additional spots for doing that? And lots of NRC regulations that, frankly, are way beyond me. But it is an interesting day. 3 of those cases involving environmental issues just this morning, the prisoner case, and then, of course, this civil rights case as well. Lots of other things on the docket coming up in the future, including, of course, the big birthright citizenship case.
Yeah.
We're waiting on that one. That's CASA, C-A-S-A. I think, Kristin, I saw that the Supreme Court has added another day, meaning this Friday might be another day for more cases to be issued. And then again next Thursday, they've got, by my count, about 16 more decisions to issue before they're done for this term. So that's a lot for a couple of days.
Well, especially because it's all supposed to come out before July, right?
Yes.
And so we have 7, I'm trying to do the math in my head,
Right.
like 7 work days left in the month, basically, ish.
And a lot of commentators have noted just that, to say, again, the Supreme Court can regulate its calendar as it wants, but tick-tock, time is getting short.
Speaking of TikTok, that just got another extension. But also, what do you think? Well, because I feel like they always end with the big banger, right?
I think
and
that's the cause of birthright.
I think so, too. I do, too.
And if they're waiting till the end, I mean, this is where the nerdiness comes out, right? Where you're like, it's like the drama of all of it. And so if they wait till the end to give that decision, does that maybe indicate that they're going to have a decision that's going to surprise people?
There certainly has been history down that road, right? Before, when we think about Dobbs in 2022,
Yeah, exactly.
Justice Alito finding that first time in 49 years that privacy does not attend abortion rights in America. Those kinds of things, the big bombshell cases, have typically been issued at the end of the term. It's difficult to predict, but certainly during the course of the oral argument on birthright citizenship, remember, too, the discussion was not so much about the meaning of that first sentence of the 14th Amendment. It had more to do with this question of national or across-the-board injunctions. That is, can one federal district court judge in one district in eastern Wisconsin, in northern Texas, in southern California, can one judge issue an injunction prohibiting something from going ahead that applies nationwide? And most of the discussion was about that, universal injunctions. And there seemed to be, again, Amy Coney Barrett, talking a lot about her this morning, seemed to be leading the way, saying we've got to find a rule, do we not? She seemed to be saying in many ways that, yes, there may be some circumstances where the issue is so large that you do want a federal district court judge to say, stop this thing across the board because it's so impactful for so many people. Maybe there's some other cases that are not quite that broad. And Amy Coney Barrett, I think, was looking to define a rule that they can give to district court judges to say, here are the standards, and there are circumstances where you can do something nationwide, many other circumstances where you cannot. The challenge always, as Judge Mary knows and Kristin, you know, is how do you articulate that rule? What do you tell judges about when they can do this, when they can't? And so in the end, as big as I agree completely with Judge Mary that transgender issues are, again, significant today, but also for birthright citizenship down the road as well.
All right, more to come. News is next.
ABC News Special Report. I'm Wayne Cabot. The Supreme Court says states have the right to ban gender-affirming care, such as hormones or surgery, for minors. The 6-3 majority ruling that the Tennessee ban does not violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and that the issue should be subject to elections and the democratic process. James Sample, law professor, Hofstra University.
I think what it means is that the Tennessee legislature's judgment is not necessarily the judgment of the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court's judgment is that Tennessee and states like Tennessee get to make those judgments for the individuals.
Chief Justice John Roberts writing for the majority, Liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor for the dissent, saying that she does so in sadness, adding the court, quote, abandons transgender children and their families to political whims. The court also okaying plans to store spent nuclear fuel rods in Texas and New Mexico. This is ABC News.
Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 10:31. I'm Connie Weber. 4 people shot and wounded on Milwaukee's southwest side, West Mineral and 10th Streets. The victims, all in their late 20s to early 30s, hospitalized but should recover. Now, nearly $11 million budget shortfall means fewer buses running in Milwaukee County. Milwaukee County Transit System will reduce services starting this fall by roughly 20,000 hours. No routes will be cut, but the reduction in services will affect highly used routes at non-peak times during the week, along with Saturdays. New affordable housing in Milwaukee's King Park neighborhood. County using $6 million in federal funds to build 120 new homes in the West Side neighborhood. 6 homes already built. The rest will be constructed by the end of the year. Here's the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. Dow is up 206 points, 42,421. The Nasdaq up 113 at 19,634. S&P 500 up 26 points at 6,009. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Taking a look at the roads with your WTMJ Time Saver traffic. The ramp from I-94 west to Highway 175 north, right shoulder there blocked due to a disabled vehicle. The ramp from 43 north to I-41 north, there could be some lane closures there due to a broken down vehicle and a disabled vehicle on the exit to Moreland Road north from I-94 west. Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Cloudy, rainy, stormy today with a high 71. Maybe some showers overnight with the low 62. Slight chance of morning rain tomorrow or storm in the afternoon with a high Thursday of 81. Slight chance of afternoon storms on Friday with a high of 83. Then sunny, hot, and humid on Saturday. It will be breezy, a high of 90, a heat index near 100. Hot, humid, and breezy on Sunday, high 93. That heat index again near 100 degrees. Right now, Madison's at 73. Green Bay 74, and Milwaukee 68 degrees. I'm Connie Weber. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 10:33.
Hey, John Mercure here for Azura Memory Care and Assisted Living. Their mission is to transform the culture of care. They specialize in caring for those with early to late stage Alzheimer's or other related dementia problems, cognitive decline. It's their specialty. They're great at it. And they also offer early memory loss classes. They can help your loved one with locations throughout our state, many here in Southeast Wisconsin. I've been in their facilities. They're top notch. It's kindness at the core. It's compassion and empathy at Azura. Wisconsin-based and family-owned. It's Azura Memory Care and Assisted Living.
Welcome back to Ask Hasselus.
How do you get pee out of an old mattress?
By trading in that old mattress for a new Beauty Rest or Sealy Posturepedic.
But that'll cost a lot of money.
Not at Hasselus Mattress. Through Monday, trade in your old mattress and get additional savings of $248 off a queen and $348 off a king. Plus, next day delivery and haul away of the old mattress for P.
What was that?
Sorry, I meant for free.
Sure you did.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you at Hasselus.com.
Without an Advent clinic nearby, people suffering needlessly from chronic nasal congestion and sinus infections would be stuck with either Band-Aid or Sledgehammer solutions. Band-Aids are pills or nasal sprays, and they're not true solutions. Surgery is a sledgehammer, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Because most people don't need surgery for nose and sinus issues, nor do they want a 14-day recovery. Our unique Advent approach can, in 20 minutes in our office, open your blocked nose for good, with only 1-day recovery. I'm Advent founder Dr. Kandula. Outside of Advent's four walls, invasive surgery is what they'll recommend. But here you will find effective and convenient in-office solutions to help you stop the need for Band-Aids and avoid the sledgehammer.
Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better. Most insurance accepted.
It's Point Taken. I am Kristin Brey, and our guests for this whole hour are former United States Attorney Jim Santel and retired Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Mary Kuhnmensch. So let's move on from the U.S. Supreme Court to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, because yesterday, in a unanimous decision, which is always interesting when it's a unanimous decision, the Wisconsin Supreme Court struck down the Republican law that weakened the powers of the state's attorney general. So obviously Josh Kaul. So I was not living back in Wisconsin when this happened, but it was obviously national news when Governor Walker lost. And in that lame duck session before Governor Evers and Josh Kaul took up their seats, some laws were passed to kind of take away some of their power. So what does this case actually mean now as far as what is returned back to the state's attorney general's office?
Separation of powers. And our Supreme Court got it right. The Wisconsin Supreme Court said, lawyers, and they looked at it as they should from the microscope of on what's the real issue here, settlements, what's that a part of, lawsuits, where are lawsuits handled, the Attorney General's office, and you can't have the Attorney General, the analogy would be this, Kristin, that, every district attorney would have to run a plea bargain by the Common Council or the Board of Supervisors. That's nonsense. You don't run your decision-making on how you're handling a particular case by a body of politicians that don't even have law degrees or a legal understanding of why you're doing that. So the Supreme Court got it right because they looked at it through like I said, the prism or the microscope of the way lawsuits are handled, how the legal system works, and said, no, we're going to say there's a separation of powers. But the reality is, just as a practical matter, the Attorney General is in charge of making decisions, and the people in his office that defend the state in lawsuits bring lawsuits on behalf of the people of the state of Wisconsin. And if part of that decision-making incorporates settlements, that's within their purview. That's within their job description, as it were. And the legislature, the county board, the Common Council don't have a role in that process.
So for the last 6 years, Was Josh Call having to do that, of taking every time he was filing a lawsuit on behalf of the state, taking it to the legislative?
This is one of the great concerns is the backlog on this, right? Even if you're a private litigant who's filed a lawsuit against the state government, I always think about the Federal Tort Claims Act and the federal government, the notion that when you're sitting across the table from a lawyer who supposedly has the jurisdiction and the power to settle this case, and instead you're told, well, we've got a resolution of this, but oh, by the way, I've got to go to the legislature for all of this, that case then ends up being suspended, right, until all of that is resolved. There's some other compelling reasons for, as Judge Mary just said, for this decision. It's absolutely the right decision, and that is all sorts of strategic and ethical things as well. All kinds of things are exchanged in the course of settlement discussions between attorneys for the government and also private parties. There are all kinds of conversations that you have with your client on both sides that are protected, right, by attorney-client privilege. You bring this into the public domain of a legislator who asks, well, why are we doing this? And much of the answer is litigation risk, because we think we may not win, or we could win, but maybe not on the basis that you think. All that kind of thing should not be out there in the public domain. And that's not an anti-transparency argument. That's a practical argument to ensure that the best settlements are accomplished.
I'm just having this, like the times that Congress have had congressional hearings with like tech CEOs, right. And they're like, what's the, are you going to ban Finsta? And it's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So it's like sometimes our legislators ask questions. It's like, you clearly are not briefed on what we're talking about.
Right. This is a
so
good
I can imagine a lot of the law is similar to that.
In the vernacular of generations ago, that would be a hell of a way to run a railroad. So we were glad, I think, from both the judicial point of view and as a former prosecutor, lead prosecutor for the federal system in the state of Wisconsin, both Jim and I agree that's just not how the legal system works, nor should it work that way. And it's fine just the way it is. And with all due respect to former Governor Walker, just an ill thought of way to get the legislature sticking its nose in something it doesn't have the right to do.
Why did it take 6 years?
So it goes up and down. There's a long history. Again, December 2018 is when the legislation that you're describing, Kristin, first goes into place. There was a long time. In 2020, the state Supreme Court rejected a challenge to this, told the Attorney General to go back down to the lower court. He went through all of that. He went to a Dane County Circuit Court judge whose name is Susan Crawford, and she ruled the laws were unconstitutional in 2022. Of course, she's now going to go on to the state Supreme Court. Lots of things have happened up and down. This has been pending for a long period of time. Some of the legislators appealed the Second District Court of Appeals decision. There's just been a lot going on. Finally, we get the right decision from the pen of Justice Brian Hagedorn, who tells us how this should work. It's a constitutional issue, too, as Judge Mary has said. This is a reason to be happy and confident in what our judiciary is doing here in the state of Wisconsin.
All
Once
right.
again, Brian Hagedorn has shown his legal and academic acumen in a way that is absolutely spot on and penned the right decision.
Right. They've been there in settlement conferences, and they're thinking in the back of their heads, gosh, I wouldn't want any of this to be a part of the public domain in the legislature right down the hallway.
Got it. All right. When we come back, I have some questions as far as the federal agents and ICE agents and what their legal rights are when it comes to announcing who they are, being able to wear masks as they're detaining people. So we'll get to all of that with Mary Kuhnmensch and Jim Santel after this.
This is WTMJ's Steve Scavini for Annex Wealth Management. Market swings in 2025 are testing even the savviest investors, yet volatility isn't just a challenge, it's a chance to build a smarter retirement plan. Annex Wealth Management understands that retirement planning is both craft and precision. It's not just about saving, it's about shaping a strategy that fits your dreams, even in these turbulent times. Annex guides you through pivotal choices, optimizing Social Security timing, evaluating your Roth conversions, or designing tax-efficient portfolios to weather the market storms. As a fee-only fiduciary, Annex is all in for you. No commissions, just commitment. Their team of CFPs, CFAs, CPAs, PhDs, and attorneys, I've worked with them all, delivers tailored solutions for your investments, retirement, estate, and tax needs. Your goals are unique, and Annex respects that, offering personalized support. Just a call or a visit away. Take the first step today. Visit AnnexWealth.com, hit the Get Started button, and chart your path forward. Annex Wealth Management.
You know, most mulch is reclaimed from landfills, but Erickson's mulch is ground from whole trees. Yep, we process the mulch ourselves to keep the prices nice and low, and use only premium colorant so the beautiful look of new mulch lasts. At Erickson's, we never skimp, and that's why first-time shoppers become repeat customers. Erickson's Landscape Supply. High-quality mulch and stone for a whole lot less. Commercial or residential, visit ericksonslandscapesupply.com to see our entire selection. How do we keep our prices so low? That's easy. We've removed the middlemen. Yep, most landscape suppliers have a couple of them in there, and that's okay. But each one of those men in the middle means a higher cost for your mulch, decorative stone, flagstone, and boulders. Feel free to check around. For the quality of our products, you won't find better prices. Erickson's Landscape Supply. High-quality mulch and stone for a whole lot less. Commercial or residential, visit ericksonslandscapesupply.com to see our entire selection.
Slide into your neighborhood Century Food Store to score the freshest produce, tastiest treats, and everything in between. Now through Wednesday, save on 24-pack Essential Everyday Purified Water, 2 for $6. 7 to 16-ounce selected varieties Barilla Pasta or Ready Pasta, 2 for $3. 6-count selected varieties Klondike Bars, 2 for $8. 12-ounce selected varieties Helluva Good Dips, 2 for $3.
Let's get some strawberries.
Attention shoppers. Safe.
Okay. Ooh, pineapple fulfills every need.
While you're shopping, a drive way back, it's a gunner.
There's something goofy going on with the PA.
Need a price check and I'll take me out to the ball game.
See, what is going on?
You're hearing things. We're at Century Foods, and you can't take your mind off winning that ultimate baseball fan sweepstakes.
I'm hoping to throw out the first pitch at a Milwaukee baseball game.
Or attend batting practice.
Or hold the finish line ribbon for the racing sausages.
You don't say.
The ultimate baseball fan sweepstakes at Century Foods. Enter on Century's Facebook or Instagram by July 30th.
Goodyear, Dunlop, Kelly, Continental, General, you name it, we got it.
Plus, free flat tire repair, free tire rotations, and more.
So when you're due for tire service, schedule it at richlawns.com.
That's Rich Lawns with 2 N's.
Rich Lawns.
Well, welcome back to Point Taken. I am Kristin Brey, and today we are spending our first hour talking to former U.S. Attorney James Santel and retired Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Mary Kuhnmensch. So as far as talking about some of the things that are in headlines day in, day out, and sometimes us lay people are like, is that legal? I don't know. I think what rose to headlines yesterday, at least it was all over my different social media feeds, is Brad Lander, who is currently the New York City comptroller and also one of the many mayoral candidates. There was video that kind of went viral because he was arrested on charge. At first, it was charges of assaulting an ICE officer, though the video, I don't know if it kind of disputes that. But he's been released. I don't think there was actually any charges, right? Oh,
he was released without any charges being filed. I believe Governor Hochul actually intervened, came down to New York, flew down to New York almost immediately. That's how upset she was about how this was handled, and
because he was escorting someone who was in the court, right?
Apparently, there are volunteers, just like there are gym volunteers, quite a bit to his credit that not many people know about, but he serves as a pro bono attorney in our children's court, which is so understaffed and needs people like him, experienced lawyers that are willing to come in, and use their time and talent free to help the court system and to help the litigants that come in the court. The same thing was happening, as I understand it, in New York as it relates to these immigration groups. They don't have enough resources, so politicians, lawyers, teachers, you name it, different people, business people have basically offered the immigration services there to act as volunteers so that these incidences wouldn't occur. Mm-hmm. That they will, when somebody is coming into court, they'll escort them. They'll walk them in, explain, give them some comfort so that they know they can still come into a court building and do their business. Explain to them. So a lot of them are bilingual. As Landers is, and would explain to them, it's going to be all right. This is where we're going. This is what we're going to do. They are all doing this voluntarily. And he was in that capacity not as a comptroller, not as a politician, not as a mayoral candidate. He was had signed up for this, over a month ago, and it was his turn to be a volunteer that day. And this is how he was treated. Maybe in a way to intimidate even volunteers or people who think that they can come in and serve in that way, just like they try to intimidate a United States senator who was rightfully in a press conference trying to explain or ask questions that he could get back to his constituents with. And he was manhandled, and it was captured on film. No need to take him out of the room. He wasn't posing a danger. He had been actually escorted in. They knew he didn't have any firearms or weapons on him because he had to go through security. He was guided into that building. We're talking about Alex Padilla now, the senator in California. And he was guided in by an ICE agent in charge of that building, security for that building, and an FBI agent to come in and use a conference room there to meet with various people in the ICE organization, ask some of his questions about what's happening to his constituents. What's your policy on this? How are you going to handle that? They had to adjourn that conference because all the people that he was expecting to meet with that morning in that conference were in the press area. They, the same ICE agent and the same FBI agent said, do you want to participate in that? They took him down, escorted him down to the press conference where he thought he could ask some questions. Why not? And before he could even, was he charging? I think the video shows he did not charge. Did he interrupt her and was trying to ask a question like press people do all the time, trying to ask questions? Did he charge the podium? No, he did not. Was he identified? Yes, he was. They knew who he was, and he had identification on him. Plus, the people that escorted him in gave him clearance because of his presenting his credentials as a United States senator. So, and using that building for an appropriate use, talking to in a conference room all of these people that are making these decisions about how they're going to handle different arrests, and how he was handled was another way, just like the Hannah Dugan situation here. Whether she was initially right or wrong in her actions is not the point that I've already come out on the record and said she was wrong, but how she was handled and arrested and handcuffed was done for the mere purpose, in my opinion, to intimidate the judiciary and embarrass her. And the same is true with Alex Padilla, and now the same is true with any volunteers in the state of New York or any other state where people are saying, look, I'll volunteer and come down and help people out and bring them in that have an immigration matter or have a court matter. I'll escort them in so that we can reduce the temperature and explain things to them so that they don't get nervous and we don't have incidents. And what happens? This volunteer, who happens to be a mayoral candidate, gets wrestled to the ground as well. So,
all right.
I don't think there's any other conclusion that a rational person can make other than these actions are being taken for the simple purpose of intimidating people who would otherwise want to be involved and help the process. As Governor Hochul has said over and over again, I'm more than happy to help the president out with eliminating or removing dangerous thugs and criminals from our streets. We've told him that over and over again, but that's not what we're seeing, and there's no excuse for that. If he wants our help on eliminating the threats of the people that are in this country illegally that are really a danger to the rest of us, we're more than happy to stand up and help them. But this has got to stop.
All right, we got one more segment with Mary and Jim, so stay with us, and we'll be back after this.
All types of injury lawyers advertise. Cartoon lawyers, bobblehead lawyers, and folks chasing ambulances with text messages. Our clients don't want or need such lawyers. Our clients know, like, and trust that Pasternak and Zergabel will help in their time of need. I'm Frank Pasternak of Pasternak and Zergabel. Jeff Zergabel and I are excellent personal injury lawyers in our community. If you need help after an injury, go to Pasternak and Zergabel at injurywisconsin.com. That's injurywisconsin.com.
St. Vincent de Paul Thrift Stores has been voted the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's Best in Thrift. So to all who voted for us, thank you. And to those who haven't yet been here, there are so many items to explore. And at thrift store prices, you can find a really great deal. At the same time, you'll be helping us help others, sometimes folks right in your own neighborhood. St. Vincent de Paul Thrift Stores on Highway 100 in Layton and Greenfield, 23rd in Lincoln, and 76th and Bradley Road in Milwaukee.
You're gonna love it, St. Vincent de Paul.
Visit family-owned Ken Michaels Furniture and our in-store design centers where you'll still find beautiful, luxurious, heirloom quality American-made furniture. Right now, save 30 to 35% store-wide and take advantage of our complimentary design services. Whether you're moving, renovating, or updating, our designers will help your vision become a reality. Visit Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield on Capitol Drive and in Greenfield on Highway 100 to save 30 to 35% store-wide today. Sleep better and save more with mattresses from Milwaukee Mattress and Ken Michaels Furniture. Handcrafted in our Milwaukee factory, our mattresses utilize natural materials like cotton cushioning, which dissipates body heat, Joma wool quilts for warm wintry nights and cool summer evenings, and natural latex providing superior conformability and pressure relief for aching joints. Stop in today at any Ken Michaels Furniture store and save up to 50% compared to national brands.
From the biggest stars to the greatest moments, Behind the Bucks is Bucks history like you've never heard it before. Go behind the scenes of the Emmy-nominated Giannis documentary. Get the real story of the blockbuster trade for Damian Lillard. Hear the origin of Bucks in 6. It's all on Behind the Bucks on the Bucks Plus audio network, presented by Gallagher, your trusted insurance broker and HR and benefits consultant. Available now on bucks.com/plus, the Bucks app, and wherever you get podcasts.
You're going to love the new all-you-can-eat Saturday breakfast buffet for under $10 at the Mine Shaft Restaurant in downtown Hartford. It's fantastic. From 8 a.m. till noon, kids under 3 eat free. Walk on in. It's all you can eat. MineshaftRestaurant.com.
Brew Crew Tuesdays are back on June 24th.
Uh-oh. Curio sends it deep to left, and there she goes.
Catch the Brewers on local TV as they take on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And Yelich launches one deep right center field. Forget about it. Oh, my goodness. Third down.
This edition of Brew Crew Tuesdays is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Tune in June 24th at 6:40 on Fox 6 in Milwaukee, or check your local listings to watch the game.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station. Now it's time for your closing arguments.
All right. Before we get to closing arguments, though, I did want to ask, I teased it. What is the law when it comes to ICE agents? And we're seeing them wear masks. We're seeing them not necessarily always have badges. And I'm hearing mixed things on whether or not they have to have that or they can do that. So, Jim, what do you know about this?
Established policy very quickly on this. No established policy, but typically reserved for undercover operations where there's some concern about safety and security of all people. It has plainly raised issues about accountability, transparency, intimidation tactics. The general rule is, again, it's not a policy across the board, is that you want to be able to have agents who approach you, ask them who they are, and have that done in an orderly fashion. There could be those circumstances where masks are appropriate. The reason why you're concerned about masks is because you want to make certain that whoever is arresting you, take you into custody, has the authority to do that, and you know that, and so you can comply. Everybody's safety is promoted by visibility and transparency.
Well, especially, I mean, in the aftermath of someone who presented themselves as a police officer
Absolutely.
and then knocked on someone's door and shot them.
Right.
It seems like it would be good to actually identify who you are before you just take
Masks
people.
generally, this federal system, the exception. It's a big exception, but not the rule. Absolutely.
All right. We don't have a lot of time. So if you have, Mary, do you have any closing arguments?
I would say that under the category of everything's old is new again, yesterday was the 51st anniversary of the Watergate break-in, June 17th, 1974.
72, so 53 years, if I'm doing my math correctly here. I'm not a mathematician.
Math on live radio is really hard.
I stand corrected, but over 50 years ago. Thanks, Jim. And that was the beginning of the end of of President Nixon's presidency, because his compulsion for an enemies list, for despising the Democrats or liberals or anybody who would take a position against him, caused him and the people immediately around him with no checks and balances on him to decide to okay a break-in to the Democratic National Committee. And that was, as I said, the beginning of the end for the president. And so we fast forward to today's date. We've got a president, not unlike others, who is consumed with an anger or mistrust of anybody who takes a position opposite of him, people that he's had in his cabinet, that take a position against him. They were once brilliant, now they're stupid. So when you let your emotions dictate your actions, particularly in the presidency, it ultimately has consequences. And I think just like it had consequences for Nixon, it's going to have consequences for President Trump unless he decides to change course and temper some of the actions that are being fueled by some of the more petty or darker sides of his character.
All right. Well, with that, I'm sorry, Jim. No time for your closing arguments today.
We've
we
got
have to
lots
get
of
to the news
to talk down the road. Do we?
But
not,
we will have
Kristin?
you guys back because obviously there's 16 more cases coming out from the U.S. Supreme Court. So we will talk to you both next week. Thank you for your time, and we'll be back after the top of the hour. The news on Point Taken.
Welcome to The Knowledge Brokers, our weekly feature covering the dynamics of the insurance market, how it affects Wisconsin businesses and residents. Sponsored by the original Knowledge Broker, R&R Insurance. Joining us today, Jeff Salazinski, Vice President of Insurance Operations. Now, Jeff, we've discussed all of the mergers and acquisitions in the insurance agency space recently. What effect is all this activity having on the local landscape?
Thank you, Vince. Great to be here again. M&A activity here locally has created a marketplace in the state where a few things are happening. Some national brokers are getting bigger. Great for their shareholders, great for their private equity owners. Some new players and names have entered the Wisconsin marketplace. Lastly, we've observed one other material change as well.
So points 1 and 2 pretty clear, Jeff. Tell us a little bit more about your last point.
Important risk management services are becoming harder to obtain. The premium threshold to access these services has been raised. Or, if the service is available, it might only be through a remote location, self-service, or online.
So what kind of services are we talking about, Jeff? Give us a better understanding of what's available.
As a full-service insurance agency, R&R clients have access to loss prevention services that are critical to remaining competitive and managing costs. Experienced claim management to guide you through and navigate a complex claim situation. Lastly, data analysts and account executives that make sure your business is actively managing risk and making data-driven decisions.
So why should a business or family work with R&R Insurance?
At R&R, we invest in human capital, real people to serve our clients locally. Loss prevention specialists, claim professionals, a full-service analytics team, a wellness strategies and mindful living team, account executives, and compliance specialists. If you're looking for a better insurance purchasing experience, we'd love to speak with you. At R&R Insurance, we know business insurance.
That's Jeff from R&R Insurance. Thanks for the great info, Jeff.
Your basement. Ooh, wall cracks. Oh no, seepage. And stains on the bottom of those walls. Terrifying. The only thing scarier than basement issues are businesses that prey on your fear over those terrifying foundational cracks. The team at Gatish Foundation never uses high-pressure sales tactics. Over 90% of Gatish Foundation's jobs are through referrals. So, for an honest opinion on the condition of your basement, call Gatish Foundation today. Spelled G-A-I-Dish. Gatish.com.
Academic Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 255368.
Don't settle for a flimsy bank pre-approval. Get the pre-approval listing agents and sellers recognized as better than the rest. The rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval from AccuNet. Get yours by clicking on the blue button at accunet.com.
Join the free smoothie party at Tropical Smoothie Cafe on Saturday, June 21st for National Smoothie Day. Tropic Rewards members get a free smoothie with bowl or food purchase. Terms and conditions apply.
The place you want to go, Lynch McWanago.
Nobody sells for less than Lynch.
This isn't just a rivalry. It's Brewers Cubs. And it's going down tonight in Chicago.
Curveball struck him out swinging.
Our Brewers Radio Network game day coverage starts tonight at 6:30.
And Trevor McGill strikes out 3 to secure the series win.
We are the home of the Brewers. News Radio 620, WTMJ, Milwaukee.
11:02, we have 67 degrees, mostly cloudy, rainy, stormy today with a high of 71. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Connie Weber. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld a law from the Tennessee State Legislature that bans gender-affirming health care for minors. The majority opinion ruled the Tennessee ban did not violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and that the issue should be subject to elections and the democratic process. Hofstra law professor James Sample with the implications of the law.
What it means is those other states' policies are good law.
law, absent the process of going through another challenge all the way from the district court process up to the Supreme Court and getting this Supreme Court to reverse itself. And with a 6-3 margin, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Tennessee, one of 24 states where gender-affirming care for minors is banned. The ruling today does not affect laws in states where the care is not banned. Still no indication as to whether the U.S. would wade into the conflict between Israel and Iran. Talks between the Iranians and the Americans broke down. President Trump's expressed his displeasure with the conflict. At an event at the White House today, he restated his concerns for Iran's nuclear program.
We've been threatened by Iran for many years. You know, if you go back and look at my history, if you go back 15 years, I was saying we cannot let Iran get a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time, and I mean it more now than I ever meant it.
During President Trump's first term, he tore up the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran that the Obama administration negotiated. It would have put a 10-year stop to all uranium enrichment from Iran. If the deal were still in place, it would have expired this fall. President Trump says he has no intention of calling Minnesota Governor Tim Walz after that deadly shooting killed a state lawmaker. Speaking after the G7 summit, he blasted Walz, calling him whacked out and a mess, saying there's no reason to reach out. As lawmakers are calling out threats of violence, State Senator Chris Larson tells Wisconsin's Afternoon News he continues to believe in people.
Most people are good people, and I keep coming back to that. As a public servant, you have to love people to be out there every day and be accessible to them, whether it's at a town hall or in a grocery store when people want to talk to you. You got to be ready to hear them and meet them where they're at. And for the most part, people are respectful and respect the bounds.
Assembly Speaker Robin Vos has requested extra security for today's session in Madison. Building a better relationship between Milwaukee Public Schools and the Department of Public Instruction, Superintendent Dr. Brenda Caselius tells Wisconsin's Morning News she's been transparent with DPI on the district's challenges with submitting financial reports.
They've given us more time to do it right so that we don't have these problems next year. I've hired outside vendor to project manage our FY25 audit, and it's really complicated and complex. And then we're going to build a whole new system so that it speaks directly to the state system, and we don't see these errors again.
Dr. Caselius confirmed the district has submitted all of its missing financial data to the Department of Public Instruction with the full audits in the final review. Time for news about your money in the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. Dow up 139, the NASDAQ up 106, and the S&P 500 up 22 points. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Sports, traffic, and weather up next. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 11:05.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. Spirits and beer, thousands of wines. Guides in the know and prices so low, it just might blow your mind. You're gonna find what you love and love what you find.
With curbside pickup available, you'll always find what you love, only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Save big on everything for your next project when you shop at Menards. Refresh your home today with window images, blinds, and shades. We have everything you need to update your window treatments. We carry vinyl, aluminum, and faux wood blinds, cellular shades, and more. Plus, get them trimmed to width in-store for free. Also, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening this week.
Save big money at Menards.
At Hazelden Betty Ford, treating mental health isn't just about breaking old patterns. It's about braving new ones. As the leader in alcohol and drug treatment for 75 years, we know caring for addiction, anxiety, depression, and trauma goes hand in hand. We're here for you with new tools when life breaks down. Discover your path to better mental health at hazeldenbettyford.org/Wisconsin. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Desk. Milwaukee lost 5-3 to the Cubs on the road. The teams will continue their series tonight. Panthers celebrating another Stanley Cup trophy, taking down the Oilers 5-1 in Game 6. NBA Finals set to continue tomorrow. Indiana Pacers will play host to the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 6 in Indianapolis. Taking a look at the roads now with your WTMJ Time Saver traffic. We do have a new crash. It is off right, blocking the shoulder. This is going to be I-41 north, almost a mile beyond the ramp from College Avenue. Ramp from 94 west to Highway 175 north, right shoulder there blocked due to a broken down vehicle. Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Cloudy, rainy, stormy today, high 71. Overnight low 62. A chance for showers tomorrow morning or maybe storms in the afternoon. Thursday's high 81. Slight chance for afternoon storms Friday with a high of 83. Hot, humid, breezy on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday's high 90. Sunday's high 93. Both days a heat index near 100. 73 in Madison and Green Bay. 67 in Milwaukee. I'm Connie Weber. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 11:08.
Broadcasting live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue. It's time for Point Taken. Here are your hosts, Steve Scafidi and Kristin Brey.
Hello, hello. Welcome to hour 2 of Point Taken. As we can keep saying, Steve will be back a week from today. But I think he might be calling to wish me a happy birthday at the end of today's show, unless he has too many beers and forgets. But he said that he was going to call, so we will see. You can look forward to that. Also coming up this hour, we are going to be talking to Jill Jacklitz, who is the Executive Director of Disability Rights Wisconsin, coming up next to talk about special education funding and kind of why where it is in the Joint Finance Committee, what people are asking for, what we can actually expect, and where that gap comes. And then I'm really excited for our guest at the bottom of the hour, Thomas Jacobson. He has a new book out called Underdog Against All Odds. He is a retired attorney and civil rights pioneer. He's from Milwaukee. And this story talks about the fact that he was an infant when he and his family escaped Nazi Germany aboard the MS St. Louis. His life work, he was fighting for justice in Milwaukee courts and beyond. He founded the city's first integrated law firm, and he also represented the families of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims in the 1990s. So he's going to join us for a great conversation coming up at 11:30. So I also thought it would be a little fun for people who, I don't feel super young, especially when I talk to people who are in their 20s. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely not in my 20s. I was looking at pictures from 10 years ago when I was 29, and just that feels like a very long time ago. But, compared to Steve and my parents, and I'm sure many of our listeners, I probably still seem like a pretty spring chicken. So I thought I'd ask this. What advice would you give to yourself as you rounded out, or you were coming to the end of your 30s? So I have 1 year left before my 40th birthday. And so I would love to hear what you would tell your younger self as your 30s were coming to an end, because, listen to your elders, right? So you can text that advice in at 855-616-1620, and I will ask Steve the same thing at the end of the show. But I found this to be interesting as far as the unintended impacts that I think we're going to continue to see with the crackdown on immigration. And so one of my go-to sources for news is Axios. One, because I think it's very objective. Two, because it's very straight to the point. There's not a lot of flowery language. It's a lot of bullet points, so you can get to the heart of it quickly. And this story that was published today is actually quotes someone from Leading Age Wisconsin, Robin Wolzenberg, who is the Senior Vice President of Clinical and Regulatory Services with Leading Age Wisconsin. And we've talked about this before. I've talked about it in past shows we know that the gray tsunami is coming. I think it's by 2030. There won't be any baby boomers who are under 65 years old. And so we are going to need people and staff to be able to take care of people as they get older. And it sounds like, I did not know these numbers, but there is a huge portion of foreign-born people who work and take care of people who are disabled and for our elderly population. And so advocates and policy experts are warning that the quality of care that people are going to receive is under threat as more of these people get deported. And so this was the quote from Robin Woltenberg from Wisconsin saying, "We have facilities with empty wings, and it's not for lack of residents. It's just for lack of staff." So these are some of the numbers that I thought I did not realize. So foreign-born workers make up 30% of the nursing home, housekeeping, and maintenance workforce. This is from data from Leading Age. That's compared to 19% of the overall workforce. So disproportionately working inside of nursing home and housekeeping and maintenance workforce. More than 41% of home health aides in the U.S. last year were foreign-born. 22% of nursing assistants are foreign-born, and 28% of personal care aides are also foreign-born. And so it is one of those things that I think about this also with the local story of the teacher's aide in Milwaukee who self-deported yesterday because ICE denied her request to remain in the U.S. while her visa application was pending. Of people, because we know that we have staffing shortages in all these different industries. We have a shortage with teachers, we have a shortage in healthcare, and the unintended consequences of the ripple effects of people who are trying to be here legally, who are trying to work, being deported. And I don't know, for people who already are trying to work get their parents in living assisted residences, and the wait lists and the cost, and also the worry about quality of care and what this is going to look like if 10, 15, 20% of the workforce is just depleted for that. So I don't know. Is this something that you think about? Is it something that you're worried about? I am. I'll just say that. I am. I think the going after people who are working and are trying to do it legally, it's not just for it's the right thing to do. Like, I just don't think that we're thinking all the way through of how this is going to affect a lot more people than it's intended to. So with that, when we come back, we're going to talk about special education funding and why it's a little broken. So our guest is Jill Jacklitz, who's the Executive Director of Disability Rights Wisconsin. Stay with us on Point Taken.
What if you could lose up to 1 pound of fat every single day? At Milwaukee Weight Loss, they've got the secret, and it's helping people shed serious weight fast. Hey, it's Steve Scavini from WTMJ. I've been on the Milwaukee Weight Loss program since January and currently in the maintenance phase after losing, get this, 40 pounds. It was fast, easy, and safe, and I'm sticking with the incredible team at Milwaukee Weight Loss to keep the weight off. Their doctor-developed, easy-to-follow program helps people lose weight naturally and safely with no drugs, no risky injections, no meal kits, no shakes, no exercise required. It's not just about losing weight. It's about resetting your metabolism to keep it off for good with personal coaching every step of the way. And guess what? Their program costs up to half as much and works up to twice as fast as most other programs. Many clients lose 20 to 30 pounds in just a month or two, up to 1 pound of fat a day. Book your free consultation now at MilwaukeeWeightLoss.com or call 262-449-1180. That's MilwaukeeWeightLoss.com.
I'm Libby Collins. This week on WTMJ Conversations, we talk with Terry Jandusa Nikolai, who survived a horrifying attack by her husband who was trying to kill her.
I was hit several times on the head with a baseball bat and lost consciousness in and out. He had then gagged me with some rags or something, and then I heard a bunch of noise, and he had a large garbage can and proceeded to put me in it.
WTMJ Conversations, Sunday mornings at 11 on WTMJ.
WTMJ's John Mercure here. Will interest rates go up or down? We'll know much more June 18th when the Fed announces its next rate decision. Do you wonder how the announcement will impact your decisions, maybe your portfolio? Join Annex Wealth Management's chief economist, Dr. Brian Jacobson, for Instant Insight. 2 p.m. June 18th, Instant Insight is when Annex kind of goes live after important announcements like the Fed announcement to help explain what it means for you and for your money. It's free. Register now at WTMJ.com or events at AnnexWealth.com, June 18th, 2 p.m.
Welcome back to Point Taken. I am Kristin, Brey, and as we are waiting for both the biennial budget to come out from the Wisconsin legislature and also the big, beautiful bill from the Senate. There's lots of up in the air when it comes to funding different programs. And one of the things in Wisconsin that unless you are a part of this, I'm not sure you're as aware of how intrinsically tied special education funding is to all of those school referendums that keep popping up on your ballot in the spring and the fall. And so I wanted to talk to someone who is very invested in this as far as understanding what that gap is and why it's there, and also where we're at so far with the Joint Finance Committee on their choices around closing that gap. So I'm very happy to have Jill Jacklitz, Executive Director of Disability Rights Wisconsin, joining us on the phone. Welcome to the show, Jill.
Hi, thanks for having me, Kristin. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So when we talk about special education funding, we hear a lot about reimbursements. So how do we currently fund special education?
So Wisconsin uses a reimbursement model where we provide the state budget provides a percentage of reimbursing school districts for the cost of special education. Right now, we're funding at about a little around 30% of the cost of that to school districts.
And
so that means that when the costs exceed that, the school district is having to figure out how to cover those costs.
Because this goes back, it was 1975, the Individual Disabilities Rights Act, as far as what federal funding comes in for disabilities? Or for special education, sorry?
Yeah, so there is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and that requires that states provide those services to students. There's a lot of sort of regulations around what students with disabilities have a right to. So and we also have that same right under our own state constitution.
And yet it doesn't say how much, because that just seems like there's such a big gap, because that is like, am I wrong when I say that a lot of the reasons why different school districts are having to do these referendums is because they're left filling the gap of not being reimbursed adequately enough for special education costs?
That's absolutely correct. We see these referendums coming all the time for school districts to cover the cost of education in their own districts that are not being provided under state funding.
So what are the different costs to provisioning special education? Like when we think, we kind of, it's like, obviously there's a big umbrella term, but when people who don't work in education or don't work with kids who have different disabilities, what does that actually look like?
Well, it's all kind of services that, some of it is special education aides that are in the classroom to support students with special education needs in the classroom. They're supporting the classroom teacher and providing that kind of support. There's services and therapies that school districts also are required to provide to students, and those all come at a cost. We have special education teachers who are specially trained to provide education services to kids with a wide range of special education needs. And those are the kinds of teachers that we see leaving the field in just droves because it's so difficult to provide the kinds of services that our students with special education need. And then the other thing I'll say is that this also ends up affecting all students in the classroom. When there's not aides available, when the funding is available to provide that kind of support in the classroom, that the sort of attention.
Oh, Jill, I think we're breaking up a little bit. Here, let's
breaking
take.
Up? Okay.
We're breaking up. Let's take a quick commercial break, and then hopefully we'll get a better connection and come back and wrap up the conversation. We're talking to Jill Jacklitz, Executive Director of Disability Rights Wisconsin, and you're listening to Point Taken on WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ's Steve's Committee for QC Kinetics. Big focus in America today on your health, and you're determined to look beyond pills and steroids and surgery to feel your best, right? I want to talk to the person who's in pain right now, or maybe it's someone you love. I've got chronic elbow pain. Maybe someone you love is dealing with that issue. You've done everything they told you to do. The pain just comes back. You're exhausted, but you don't give up. You want to meet someone who can fix that for you? Let's meet with Medical Director Dr. Ashley Caravelli and her team. They'll explain how their regenerative treatments take your body's own healing power and help restore your damaged tissue. These are well-respected protocols that include potent and powerful cellular-level treatments. QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics has helped tens of thousands of people, so many of them right here in Milwaukee. No masking the pain. They're going after the very source of it. Yes, you can say goodbye to that chronic pain and live your best life. Find out if you're a good candidate. The consultation is free. Just call QC Kinetics at 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474.
It's happened again. Another local organization switching to business technology from James Imaging Systems. This time, it's St. Anne Center for Intergenerational Care. CFO Sally Parente.
We were unhappy with our previous vendor. It was always a big production. We also had some issues with pricing.
And now with James Imaging Systems?
The service, the value, and the ease with which we can just keep using their service and not having any big headaches. We're getting value here as well.
Just what you'd expect from James Imaging Systems, a 100% Wisconsin-owned and managed company. AI-driven workflow automation, security enhancements, and digital transformation.
I love that they're a local company. They've been a wonderful business partner for St. Anne Center.
Make the switch to James Imaging Systems. Call 262-781-7700 or visit jamesimaging.com. James Imaging Systems, your local business technology partner.
Here's to sweet summer days together with friends and family in Wisconsin. To discovering magic in every moment.
Hey, Mom, over here.
And to reconnecting through a world filled with wonder.
Wow.
Here's to supper club celebrations and dancing until the sun goes down. Here's to those who Wisconsin. Plan your summer getaway at travelwisconsin.com.
Brew Crew Tuesdays are back on June 24th.
Uh-oh. Curio sends it deep to left, and there she goes.
Catch the Brewers on local TV as they take on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And Yelich launches one deep right center field. Forget about it. Oh, my goodness. Third down.
This edition of Brew Crew Tuesdays is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Tune in June 24th at 6:40 on Fox 6 in Milwaukee, or check your local listings to watch the game.
We are talking to Jill Jacklitz, Executive Director of Disability Rights Wisconsin, about special education funding. And Jill, I'm hoping that we have a better connection now, because we were talking about how the gap in this funding isn't just affecting kids with special needs and that need special education, it's impacting all kids.
That's right. I hope you can hear me better now.
Much better.
Yeah, great. So what we know is that class sizes go up. Teachers are pulled in a lot of different directions in the classroom to address all the needs when they're not able to have the other supports in the classroom. It's difficult to teach in those kinds of conditions, and qualified teachers are leaving the profession. The ability, I was listening to your previous section about sort of the workforce shortages and things like aides, that applies to education as well. So it's hard for districts to hire special education aides for the classroom. There's just, people are given a lot of different employment opportunities, and when there's not the kinds of support and pay available, it's hard to keep aides in the classroom. And one of the things that we really also point out is that students with disabilities, it affects them dramatically as well. They get under-supported. They're getting expelled in increasing numbers. And districts are struggling to fund the mandated programs that they have to fund for special education, and they are diverting funds from the general budget.
Because
it's meant to fund for all students.
Because correct me if I'm wrong here, but for public schools, they have to take all students as far as if they're in the district, versus for private schools, they have more flexibility and being able to say, we don't have the services for this child with this kind of needs, and can reject an application to have to serve all kids.
Right, that's true. There is something called a special needs scholarship program that's available to private voucher schools, and they get 90% of reimbursement for the special education costs they provide, but they don't have to provide all services. And if they don't provide the services that a student needs, then that school turns out not to be the right fit for a student, so they don't have to accept them.
So that's a 90% reimbursement rate for these for the voucher schools, and currently it's been 31% for public schools.
That's correct.
That is a big difference.
Yeah, it's a big gap, right? And there's a big gap, just in our education funding in the state.
Yeah. And so I know that both from the state superintendent, Jill Underly, and from the governor, the request was originally to double that to a 60% reimbursement rate. Now, last week, the Joint Finance Committee came out with what they would like to propose. And what are you understanding as far as the compromise that they're willing to make?
Right. So they voted to go up to 35% reimbursement in the first year of the biennium and 37.5% in the second year of the biennium.
So not double.
Not double. It's really a bit above where we are now, right?
Yeah.
It's not sufficient.
And so if this doesn't get vetoed by the governor and this is what we work with for the next 2 years, what can we expect as far as education, special education, and our school systems?
Well, I think we're going to be facing the same things we're facing now. And the thing to remember is this is an issue that people across the state are calling for our legislature to address. In the state budget hearings, rural, urban, suburban, all across in every corner of the state, we were hearing from people. It was by far the largest issue raised in the budget hearing was funding for education. And in fact, there was just a Marquette Law School poll in February that found that 76% of Wisconsin registered voters favor a major increase in funding for special education in schools because voters understand that when we're not getting that funding in the state budget, it's coming up in referendums, it's coming up in tax levies that hit them directly.
Yeah. And that is the big thing, right? Is that it's not, well, we're just not funding it. It's that we're still funding it just in other ways so long as the community, has to then vote on the referendum to say this is something that we know that we need as a community. But it's almost like you're paying double tax dollars then.
That, Kristin, I think that is just really the best point to make is the services are mandated, and so where does the money come from?
Yeah.
It comes from local taxpayers through local levies, or it comes from the general education funding.
Absolutely.
That's there for all kids. So that's why we say this kind of approach and this lack of funding affects all students.
Absolutely. Well, we have to let you go, but thank you so much for your time, Jill Jacklitz. She is the Executive Director of Disability Rights Wisconsin, and news is next.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Sievertson. The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of a Tennessee law that prohibits the use of gender-affirming medicine and surgery for transgender children. A 6-3 decision. Kelly Robinson, president of the Human Rights Campaign.
These are not about special rights. It's just about getting equal rights to access to, medically necessary health care, period.
A listeria food poisoning outbreak that has killed 3 people is linked to newly recalled Heat and Eat chicken fettuccine Alfredo, sold at Kroger and Walmart stores, say federal health officials. Sources telling ABC News President Trump has been presented with a range of options by his national security team, including the U.S. directly attacking Iranian nuclear facilities. Brad Lander, Democratic politician who was at immigration court with a migrant in New York, was arrested by immigration police who accused him of obstructing their operations. This is ABC News.
Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 11:31. I'm Connie Weber. The Wisconsin Attorney General does not need permission to settle certain civil lawsuits. That's the unanimous decision by Wisconsin's High Court Tuesday. At issue was the Attorney General's power to resolve environmental and consumer protection cases and cases involving the governor's office and executive branch. The law signed in 2018 required the legislature's budget committee to sign off on those settlements. Tuesday, the Wisconsin Supreme Court declared the law unconstitutional. hospital. 3 adults dead, another critically injured in an apartment complex shooting in Janesville. Reports of shots fired came just after 11 a.m. Tuesday near North Pontiac Drive and Holiday Drive. Police secured the area about 90 minutes later, say there's no credible threat to the community. The shooting's still under investigation. A Milwaukee teacher's aide self-deports back to El Salvador. Yesenia Ruano lived in the U.S. for 14 years after seeking asylum from human trafficking. Last week, she received notice from immigration officials that her request for a temporary stay while her visa was being processed was denied. Ruano left Mitchell Airport on Tuesday and returned to Central America with her 2 U.S.-born daughters. Time for some news about your money in the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. The Dow is up 112, 42,328. NASDAQ up 94 points, 19,615. S&P 500 is up 20 at 6,002. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Taking a look at your roads with your WTMJ Time Saver traffic. We have 3 lanes blocked due to a crash. This is going to be I-41 East at I-41 South. Again, 3 lanes there are blocked due to a crash. I-43 North about a quarter mile beyond Beecher and Mitchell. Center lane there blocked due to a crash as well. Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Mostly cloudy, rainy, stormy today, high 71. Some showers possible overnight with a low 62. Slight chance of rain tomorrow morning or storms in the afternoon, high Thursday, 81. Slight chance of afternoon and evening storms on Friday with a high 83. For the weekend, we have sunshine, but it will be hot and humid. High Saturday, 90. High Sunday, 93. Heat index both days near 100 degrees. 73 right now in Madison and Green Bay, 67 degrees in Milwaukee. I'm Connie Weber. Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 11:34.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your RV, RV wins.
What, are you going to take the RV to the lake or clean out your closet? RV wins! Putting the dishes away or taking the RV camping? RV wins! Cleaning the fridge or taking a trip to the beach? RV wins!
You might want to clean the fridge real quick because, mold.
We clean out the fridge, then take the RV out.
With Progressive, you can bundle your RV with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings in your RV. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states and situations.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar. Introducing New Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic, plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals, and it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with New Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
What would your community be like without UW-Madison? The UW is one of the country's leading hubs for supporting life-changing research. UW-Madison helps make a healthier Wisconsin, build strong businesses, and win the war for workforce talent, not just in Madison, but across our entire state. Visit uwalumni.com/UW5 to tell your legislators to support UW-Madison in the Wisconsin state budget. That's uwalumni.com/UW, the number 5. Paid for by the Wisconsin Alumni Association.
Loyalty, family. Few things are more important. This is WTMJ's Steve Scafidi and Loyal Family Renovations. They saved the day after a brutal storm in Oak Creek. Hail damage, yeah, I had a lot of it. But Jeff, Jake, and the whole team, absolute pros, made the entire process smooth as can be. Let's be honest, not everyone knows how to deal with adjusters. They handled all the questions, quick answers, top-notch customer service. In just 2 days, my roof was done. If storm damage hits, call the team that made it easy for me. Loyal Family Renovations. Visit loyalfamilyrenovations.com.
Welcome back to Point Taken. I am Kristin, Brey, and I am very excited to talk to our next guest. It's kind of a break from politics a little bit, but it is a wonderful local story. Thomas Jacobson, who is a retired attorney and civil rights pioneer, wrote a new book called Underdog Against All Odds, The Fight for Justice. And so I was unfamiliar with your story until our friend Jeff introduced me to your book and your story. And it started with a remarkable escape from Nazi Germany when you were an infant.
You're right. And first of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk. Yeah.
And then you also went on to be, a human rights lawyer in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. You founded the city's first integrated law firm. You represented the families of the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, you have lived quite the life. So let's start with the MS St. Louis that you were on as the youngest passenger, right?
Passengers of the St. Louis still surviving. There's only about a half a dozen of us left. There was 937. This all happened back in 1939, May. That's when the St. Louis left Nazi Germany. My story, the family, I was just a baby at the time. I was 6 months old. 35, things got bad, of course, for Jews in Nazi Germany when Hitler said that would be 33. So 33, it just escalated the anti-Jewish attitude of the Nazis. It became much more extreme in terms of what they were doing to the Jews. Kristallnacht was in November of 38. That's when the Nazis destroyed all the commercial businesses of Jews. They went after Jews' families personally. The next morning, they arrested all the male Jews, 16 to 60, and my father was arrested. The Nazi SS came to the door. This is the morning after Kristallnacht. Mother with me in her hands, 6 months baby. She, they told her, a man of the house, he's going to be arrested in 10 minutes. That's it. So my dad had to pack up his take whatever he could. Off they marched him. My mother had no idea where they were taking him. For 2 months, he was in a concentration camp in Dachau. Treatments are so inhumane. He was a changed man after he left in terms of the damage that was done from being in the concentration camp. But they let him out after 2 months. You had to get out of Nazi Germany in you had a short period of time, 90 days. That's how much.
That was the instruction.
Yeah, and if you weren't out in 90 days, you get re-arrested. And if you went back concentration camp, well, and they said it would be worse. You're looking at Auschwitz where all the Jews were gassed. So we really had to get out. We had applied in 35 to get in the United States, but the waiting list, our number didn't come up until November of 1939. So here we're stuck in Nazi Germany. We can't get to the U.S. Where are we going to go? Nobody wanted the Jews. Ultimately, we were able to get passage to Cuba. So the St. Louis left off to Cuba. When we got to Cuba, they wouldn't let us in. We had a visa it was a scam, the guy that had sold those, and they didn't honor him. So all of us were stuck on the boat. Only 10 were allowed to go to shore. Over 900 left on the boat. Nothing could be done through the Jewish agencies to work something out that they would let us in. We left Cuba, went to the United States. You could see the shores of Miami from the boat. U.S. had safeguard. They had cutters from the Coast Guard alongside the boat because people were ready to jump in the water and swim to shore. That's how desperate everybody was. One man had tried to commit suicide. They were locking the men up in the cabins because they were so fearful, because nobody would take us. We couldn't get in. We couldn't get in the United States. Roosevelt, a couple of telegrams, he ignored them. So we ended up leaving the U.S. We went to Canada. They wouldn't let us in Canada. There, the guy, Mackenzie King, he was really anti-Jewish. He wanted nothing to do with the Jews. We had to leave Canada. We're out there heading back toward Germany. We had a wonderful captain on the boat, Gustav Schrader. It's amazing that he was able to stall until our Jewish agencies worked something out. 4 countries took us. We ended up in Holland. So we're in a camp in Holland waiting until our number could come up to the U.S. It came up then in November of 1939, and then we booked passage, and we got to Milwaukee in February of 1940. It's amazing.
It's amazing. And so did you have family in Milwaukee, or were you just directed that this is where you were supposed to go?
We did have. mother, she had a family that they owned Fried Osterman. That was a factory there, the Osterman family, and they became our sponsors. Okay. And you needed a sponsor if you wanted to get in the U.S. You had to have somebody here that would say you wouldn't become a public charge, that they would give you work, that they would give you a place that you could live. But without a sponsor, you couldn't get in the U.S. The U.S. had a very isolationist policy back then. It's very much like what's going on now. They don't want any immigrants. I mean, my story is very timely because what's going on with the deportations and roundups and what's going on with immigrants today. So this story, you can learn a lot from what our experience was there.
Absolutely. And so our guest is Thomas Jacobson. His book is Underdog Against All Odds, A Fight for Justice. When we come back, let's fast forward in your life a little bit about your work as a human rights lawyer and representing the families of the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer. Stay with us on Point Taken.
Hey, this is Steve Scafidi for Advent. I had some snoring issues that kept my wife up at night. That led to poor sleep and a lot of tired mornings on the radio, and nobody wants that, trust me. But it's simply, my nose wasn't working the way it should. I decided to go to Advent for a quick 30-minute visit, one of their great facilities, talk to a bunch of their doctors. They really put me at ease. After a really simple sleep study at home, in my own bed, they determined the root cause of my problem had to do with my sinuses and nasal passages in my breathing triangle. I didn't even know I had a breathing triangle until I went to see Advent. After a short procedure done in office, I'm back to breathing well, and my wife and I are both back to sleeping through the whole night. The best sleep we've ever had, that could be you. If you struggle with restless nights like I did, take the time to see how Advent can help. To find out how breathing well and sleeping well can make your life and your nights a whole lot better, go to AdventKnows.com, schedule an appointment today. Because Advent knows, when you breathe well, you live better.
AccuNet Mortgage is an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 255368.
After writing 3 unsuccessful offers, Brenda decided to make a no-regrets offer on this next property. She offered $35,000 over asking and promised to complete the purchase even if the appraised value came in as much as $25,000 below the accepted offer price. Why? Because she was tired of losing, and because her AccuNet loan consultant showed her that even in her worst-case scenario, no additional money would be needed at closing, and her payment, which on this home was much more affordable than others she wrote offers on, would only increase by $17 a month. Brenda's no-regrets offer, backed up by a rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval from AccuNet, was accepted over several others. And wouldn't you know, the appraised value came in at the significantly higher than asking purchase price, which happens 9 out of 10 times in our experience. If you or someone you know wants help understanding what a no-regrets pre-approval might look like, get started by clicking on the blue button at AccuNet.com. That's ACCUNET.com.
We did the math. When you buy bagged mulch from the big guys, you pay $50 a yard. Why pay more for inferior mulch? When you buy from Erickson's, you'll get premium mulch for almost half the cost. And you'll see that even our economy mulch is better, for less than half the cost of bag mulch. And either choice is made with premium colorant that lasts longer. Erickson's Landscape Supply, high-quality mulch and stone for a whole lot less. Commercial or residential, visit ericksonslandscapesupply.com to see our entire selection. Do you want the economy mulch or the premium? The only real difference is that the premium mulch has thicker strands, while the economy mulch is finer. But the colorant we use for both is of the highest quality, and that's why the color of our mulch lasts longer. And our mulch comes from trees, not pallets, and we process it all in-house. That's why our prices are so low. Erickson's Landscape Supply, high-quality mulch and stone for a whole lot less. Commercial or residential, visit ericksonslandscapesupply.com to see our entire selection.
Join the free smoothie party at Tropical Smoothie Cafe on Saturday, June 21st for National Smoothie Day. Tropic Rewards members get a free smoothie with bowl or food purchase. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm Brett Matschke, and you're due for service.
Rich Lawns.
Welcome back to Point Taken. I am Kristin Brey, and our guest is Thomas Jacobson, who's a retired attorney and civil rights pioneer. And his new book is Underdog Against All Odds, The Fight for Justice. And there's an event tonight. We're only getting a small sample of your stories because radio moves very, very fast. But you are going to be having an event tonight at 7 p.m. at the Jewish Community Center in Milwaukee, right?
And anybody can come in and no registration, just show up.
Just show up. And so you're going to have books there. You'll get to go into way more stories than we have time for today. But I wanted to fast forward. So you get to, as a child, you get to Milwaukee. And so then you stay in Milwaukee and you end up becoming a human rights lawyer. And so what were some of the cases that you were involved in? I know that you started the first integrated law firm. So in going into the 50s and 60s, what kind of paint the landscape of what Milwaukee was like?
All right, well, let's talk about food. We start with Lloyd Barbie, who was my partner. In 1962, we opened up Barbie and Jacobson. We were the first integrated law firm. We did all of the representation of Milwaukee activists that were raising hell in the 60s. Just a few people that I represented. We had Father Grappi during the housing marches. He was arrested. His case, I ended up in the United States Supreme Court, finding a law of Wisconsin change of venue unconstitutional. Also, I had the garnishment case that eliminated garnishment before judgment in 14 states. That also went to the United States Supreme Court. I argued that case. Both cases I was successful in overturning. In Wisconsin, it was the garnishment before judgment law. So Barbie and I, when you look about the clients that people would know about that I represented, you had Father Grappi, John Givens and Core, you had Calvin Sherrod, New American Labor Council. Probably the biggest case that came out of the 60s, 70s, Daniel Bell case. This is a young black man that was shot by a white cop right in the back of the head. They planted a knife to make it look like self-defense. We ended up, that case was, the murder was in 58. We had the lawsuit in 78 after one of the cops came forward and said we had lied during the inquest in 58.
Wow.
8 when they had the planted knife as a self-defense, and so they exonerated both police for killing Bell. 20 years later, one of the cops that actually was there said, yes, my partner, he planted a knife. He said he's just a nigger kid. And then, of course, that's the lie they went with. And then that was the inquest that and then you get the lawsuit where we ended up, finally, we got a jury verdict of $2 million against every law enforcement. The cops that did the shooting, the higher-ups in the police department, and the district attorney, all found guilty of a racist murder, intentional, under a Federal Civil Rights Act. So it was a very important case in civil rights as far as Milwaukee and the country is concerned. So after the Daniel Bell case, we were involved with Mike McGee. When I represented him, he was an alderman that very unpopular and did a lot. It was frustration with the segregation. Today, the parallel would be the frustration that you've got from the Hispanic community because of the roundup and deportations that are going on now with ICE arresting family people, taking them out of their families. It was just, it was bad here in Milwaukee. I don't have to tell people that are listening that know about human rights and civil rights that this was a tough community in terms of if you were a minority. So those were the important cases that I handled.
Well, and then we only have about a minute left, but then, of course, you also represented the families of the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer, which those 11 families?
Yeah. Well, we ended up with, we got $500,000 for 11 families. How do you get money from a serial murderer that claims he doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together? I took a deposition of Dahmer. I got judgments of $150 million for all the clients. I had 8 families. And how do you collect? That was the issue.
Yeah.
And so here I'm talking to Dahmer and saying, how are you going to pay this judgment? You know, he said, oh, I'll pay if I had any money, but I don't have anything. So we came up with some unique ways that he could pay. One, he could write a book, and we would film it, and then you'll assign whatever money we can make when we sell that book. Well, he didn't want to do that because all the money had to go to his family, and his dad wrote a book, Lionel Dahmer, and he took the money for that.
Okay.
He got $150,000 from the publisher to put that book out. But so that idea fell apart. But then we found out Dahmer, he had a bank account with $15,000. And how do you get $15,000? You know, you're making 17 cents an hour doing license plates, that kind of thing. So, you know, people sent money from around the world. You couldn't believe it. So we garnished that, took all the money out. The big ticket was that I took out all of his possessions, everything in his jail cell, everything that was in an apartment. I don't want to go through kind of things that we got because they were pretty disgusting if you know what Dahmer did to his victim. And we threatened to have an auction and sell it off to the highest bidder. Joe Zilber, the one person in Milwaukee that stepped forward, said his wife told him, we can't have an auction. It'll make the city look terrible to have a Jeffrey Dahmer auction. Everybody in the world will be, you know, looking at this and how much money can he get. And it happened right after the Kennedys had the auction of Jack Kennedy's and gotten millions and millions. So, of course, I came out and said, well, you know, Dahmer's the flip side of the Kennedy thing would be if we had the auction. And he ended up giving us $500,000.
Wow.
And that went to 11 families.
All right.
I took no fee.
Could take
I took no fee, by the way. That's very important to know. That was done pro bono, even though the media crucified me for everything I was suggesting and saying, well, don't forget about what the lawyer's cut is. There was no cut.
There was no cut.
That was done pro bono.
All right. He is Thomas Jacobson. The book is Underdog Against All Odds, A Fight for Justice. You can see him tonight at the Jewish Community Center at 7 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's fascinating.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. We'll be back after this to wrap up the show.
WTMJ's John Mercure here. Will interest rates go up or down? We'll know much more June 18th when the Fed announces its next rate decision. Do you wonder how the announcement will impact your decisions, maybe your portfolio? Join Annex Wealth Management's chief economist, Dr. Brian Jacobson, for Instant Insight. 2 p.m. June 18th, Instant Insight is when Annex kind of goes live after important announcements like the Fed announcement to help explain what it means for you and for your money. It's free. Register now at WTMJ.com or events at AnnexWealth.com, June 18th, 2 p.m.
Vince Vitrano here for Connect Chiropractic. Get your aches and pains under control. But not only that, regular care with Connect Chiro can bring back your energy. A lot of folks start with headaches, back pain, and shoulder pain. How quickly you see results varies from person to person, but time and repetition are the key to staying on track. No twisting, no cracking, no popping. Connect Chiro docs use a special tool for all your adjustments, targeted results, and a gentler experience. Check out the new location in Oak Creek or get started at GoConnectChiro.com.
Are you okay, Ben? I'm scared, Arvid. Why? Nicole can read my mind. What?
Hold on. Is this about the Ashton recliner again?
See? I was just thinking about the Ashton recliner at Penny Mustard.
Yes, we were just talking about its optionizable qualities.
I said I'd like the Ashton recliner in leather, and she said...
Done.
I suggested a different leg color, and she said...
Done.
Ben.
And then he asked if I could add bedazzled gold nail-head adornments to make it look like a throne.
And she said, great minds think alike.
Look, I don't think Nicole can really read your mind.
Well, not anymore. That's why I'm wearing this tinfoil hat.
Why does it smell like fish?
Because I wrapped my lunch in it.
The Ashton recliner, made in the USA with locally sourced materials and designed to fit all body types, starting at $28.70. At Penny Mustard.
Showrooms in Milwaukee and Chicago.
PennyMustard.com.
Better versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
This week on What's on Tap, we're learning a new way to sip. THC beverages have arrived at St. Kate the Arts Hotel, offering a unique alternative to traditional cocktails. Served in perfectly dosed cans and packed with flavor, these drinks are designed for those who prefer a non-alcoholic option without sacrificing the experience. With something for every palate, from citrusy to sweet, THC beverages are quickly becoming a top request. It's a modern take on mindful sipping, now available at St. Kate. Hear the full interview on WTMJ.com and learn more at stkatearts.com.
Brew Crew Tuesdays are back on June 24th.
Uh-oh. Churio sends it deep to left, and there she goes.
Catch the Brewers on local TV as they take on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And Yelich launches one deep right center field. Forget about it. Oh, my goodness. Third down.
This edition of Brew Crew Tuesdays is presented by Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Tune in June 24th at 6:40 on Fox 6 in Milwaukee, or check your local listings to watch the game.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station.
All right, we only have but we have a special call from across the pond. Steve Scafidi, how many beers in are you right now?
1.5.
All right,
1.5 at the old Smitty Inn in Scotland.
How was your trip so far, friend?
It's awesome. The weather's been fantastic, except for a little light rain. It's warm. People are amazing. We've been in probably a dozen pubs. I've enjoyed each and every one of them. Fish and chips are outstanding. Scenery's amazing. So I was in a castle today. It's the perfect way to spend a vacation, Kristin. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I asked listeners earlier today if you could go back and talk to yourself when you were 39, what advice would you give? So I'll ask you the same question.
39.
39. I'm closing out my 30s.
Stay in shape, first off.
Okay.
Yeah, stay in shape. Read a book. Try to read a book a month. I read a book a week now, but read a book a month. Trust me, you're going to benefit. And here's the last one. This is the most important one. Listen to other people who may disagree with you completely, but listen to what they're saying and try to understand what everyone else is doing. That's my advice.
So stay in shape. Read a book a week or a month.
Read a book a
and
month.
listen to all people that maybe disagree with you, just to get
to
variety.
Everyone, yes.
Listen to everyone. All right. I like that advice. All right.
And let me give you a Scottish greeting.
Okay.
Let me give you a Scottish greeting real quick. Slàinte. You know what that means?
I have no idea.
Great health. Great health for you on your birthday.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve. We can't wait to have you back next week. Have fun. Say hi to Gene Miller for us. And that will do it for us today. News is next.
1, 2, 3, 4, happy birthday!
The historic Fox and Hound Supper Club is the most beautiful, unique, and affordable summer dining destination. WTMJ's John Merck here. I love the Fox and Hounds. When you buy one dinner, your second dinner is free, including prime rib every Wednesday and Saturday, desserts and ice cream drinks, buy one, get one free. Order a hand-cut choice ribeye steak, pan-seared scallops, the roasted duck, pan-fried walleye, pasta, the ribs, any entree, your second dinner is free 7 nights a week. Wow, what a value. Relax with a cold beverage on that patio in the woods, then dinner in one of the 8 unique dining rooms. Your second dinner is free. It is a dining experience at the historic Fox and Hounds. The award-winning Fox and Hound Supper